The conference room at First National Bank felt colder than usual as I reviewed the security footage for the fourth time. Even after 20 viewings, seeing my brother Marcus walk up to the teller still made my stomach turn. "Are you sure you want a copy of this, Miss Thompson?" asked Mr. Reeves, the bank's security director. His expression was a mixture of sympathy and professional detachment. "Yes," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "And the transaction records for the last 6 months, please." I had built my life on being careful. At 34, I was a senior financial analyst at Goldman Sachs, known for triple-checking every decimal point. My colleagues joked that I was the human calculator, precise, reliable, impossible to fool. But somehow, I'd missed this betrayal happening right under my nose. 6 months ago, when Mom was diagnosed with aggressive lung cancer, I didn't hesitate. I transferred $75,000 from my personal savings to a dedicated medical expense account. "Use it for whatever she needs," I told Marcus, who lived closer to home and handled Mom's day-to-day care. "Just keep me updated on the treatments." Every week, he sent detailed texts. "Mom's starting a new round of chemo. The doctors are optimistic. She's responding well to treatment." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my little brother, the one I'd helped raise after Dad died when we were kids. I paid for his college textbooks, covered his first apartment's security deposit, even co-signed his car loan. But last Tuesday, during my monthly call with Mom, everything unraveled. "The pain is getting worse," she mentioned casually. "But the hospital won't schedule another round until we make a payment arrangement." My teacup had slipped from my hand, shattering on the kitchen floor. "What payment arrangement?" "I sent $75,000 for your treatment." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Honey," Mom said slowly, "we never received any money." That's how I found myself at First National Bank at 8 a.m. on a Thursday, watching security footage from March 15th. The timestamp showed 2:14 p.m. as Marcus approached the teller, holding a power of attorney document I'd never seen. 20 minutes later, he walked out with a cashier's check for the entire amount. The funds were deposited into an account at Pacific West, Mr. Reeves explained, sliding a transaction report across the table. "Would you like us to contact the fraud department?" I shook my head, gathering the documents into my leather portfolio. "Not yet. I need to handle this personally first." That evening, my phone lit up with a family group text. Marcus had called an emergency family meeting at Mom's house. Important discussion about Mom's medical bills. Everyone needs to be there. 7 p.m. I arrived exactly on time, parking my Tesla behind Marcus's new Ford F-150 Limited, a $75,000 truck he'd bought in April. Funny timing, that. The living room was packed. Mom sat in her favorite recliner, looking frailer than I remembered. Marcus and his wife Katie occupied the couch, while our sister Amanda perched on the armrest. Aunt Sarah and Uncle Pete had even driven in from Houston. Finally, Marcus said as I walked in, his tone dripping with fake concern, "We need to talk about Mom's medical bills. The hospital's threatening to stop treatment." I set my laptop bag down carefully. "Yes, let's talk about that." "Look," he continued, standing up for maximum dramatic effect. "We all know you make the most money. The rest of us have been scraping by, doing what we can. But Mom needs help, and you've done nothing." Amanda nodded vigorously. All those promises about sending money, and nothing ever came through. "Stop lying about the $75,000, Marcus suddenly yelled, pointing at me. "We're tired of your excuses." The room erupted in practiced outrage. Katie wiped fake tears. Aunt Sarah muttered about big city selfishness. Uncle Pete shook his head disapprovingly. I looked at Mom, who seemed confused and overwhelmed. She'd always hated conflict, always believed the best in people, especially her children. Without saying a word, I took out my laptop and the HDMI cable I'd brought. Their smug expressions faltered slightly as I connected it to the large TV mounted on the wall. "What are you doing?" Marcus demanded, a slight tremor in his voice. I straightened up, smoothing my blazer. Since everyone's so interested in the truth about the money, I thought we could watch a little video together. "We don't need," Marcus started, but I cut him off. "Actually, we do." I opened the security footage file. First National Bank sends their regards, by the way. They were very helpful this morning. The color drained from Marcus's face as the first frame appeared on screen. I looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes before pressing play. "Let's all watch together, shall we?" Their smiles disappeared. The security footage played in crystal clear quality on Mom's 65-inch TV. Every detail was visible. Marcus's navy blue suit, the brown leather briefcase I'd given him for Christmas, even the way he nervously adjusted his tie before approaching the teller. "That's quite a nice suit," I commented casually. "Bought it in March, didn't you?" Marcus remained frozen, his mouth slightly open. Katie had stopped fake crying, her hands gripping the couch cushions. The footage continued. Marcus presenting the forged power of attorney. The teller processing the transaction. The timestamp matching exactly when he texted me. "At the hospital with Mom. Starting new treatment today." "Turn it off," he whispered. "Why?" "We're just getting to the interesting part." I pulled out the transaction records. Like how you deposited the cashier's check into a new account at Pacific West. Or how that money was withdrawn in 4 large transactions over the next month. Amanda stood up, her face flushed. "This doesn't prove anything." He was handling Mom's care. $32,000 to Thompson Motors on April 3rd, I read from the statement. For a down payment on that shiny new truck outside. Another $28,000 to Diamonds Direct on April 15th. I turned to Katie, who was now staring at her enormous engagement ring. "Congratulations on the upgrade, by the way." Mom's hands were shaking as she reached for her water glass. "Marcus, what did you do?" "The remaining funds," I continued, my voice steady, "were split between Nordstrom, Four Seasons hotels, and an interesting series of transfers to a cryptocurrency exchange." Uncle Pete, who'd been so quick to judge earlier, suddenly found the carpet fascinating. Aunt Sarah's righteous indignation had evaporated. I walked over to Mom's recliner and knelt beside her. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I thought the money was going to your treatment. I should have verified directly with the hospital." "You can't prove any of this," Marcus burst out, desperation creeping into his voice. "That power of attorney was legal." "Actually," I interrupted, pulling out another document, "I spoke with your friend David at Legal Quick today. You know, the notary? He was very cooperative when I mentioned potential fraud charges. Apparently, he never actually witnessed any signing." The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marcus's face had gone from red to gray. He also mentioned something interesting about a pattern of document falsification. Something about Dad's will last year. I watched realization dawn on Amanda's face. "We should probably discuss that too, since you both seemed so concerned about financial transparency." "Now wait a minute." Uncle Pete finally spoke up. "Let's not get carried away. I'm sure Marcus meant to repay." The $43,000 you borrowed from him in May? I asked innocently. From Mom's medical fund? Yes, we should definitely discuss that too. I opened another folder on my laptop. Bank statements, credit card bills, and transfer records appeared in neat columns. 6 months of systematic theft, laid bare in black and white. I've spent the day collecting quite a lot of documentation, I explained, my analyst's precision showing through. Would anyone like to see their personal transaction history? I have them organized alphabetically. Katie suddenly stood up, her designer handbag clutched to her chest. I didn't know, she blurted out. Marcus told me it was his investment money. Investment money? Mom's voice was barely audible. While I couldn't afford my medication. Marcus turned on Katie. Shut up. You loved spending it on that trip to Cabo, which was charged to a new credit card opened in Mom's name, I added, pulling up another statement, along with about $23,000 in other purchases. Amanda began edging toward the door. I smiled at her. Leaving so soon? But we haven't discussed the mysterious payments to your business account yet. I trusted you, Mom whispered, looking at Marcus. I couldn't understand why the hospital kept saying nothing had been paid. I placed my hand over hers, feeling her trembling. Don't worry, Mom. I've already spoken with the hospital's billing department. Your treatment is covered going forward. I looked directly at Marcus. They were very interested in the insurance fraud attempt too. Insurance fraud? Aunt Sarah's voice cracked. Oh yes, I replied, clicking to another document. Someone submitted claims for treatments that never happened. The insurance company's investigation unit is very thorough. Marcus collapsed back onto the couch, his expensive suit suddenly looking like a costume he borrowed. So, I said, standing up and straightening my blazer again, should we discuss repayment terms? Or should we let the bank's fraud department handle this directly? The silence in the room was absolute. Even the ceiling fan seemed to hold its breath. I checked my watch, a Cartier I'd bought with my own money. I'll give you all exactly 1 hour to decide. No one moved for what felt like minutes. The security footage had stopped playing, frozen on a frame of Marcus counting the cashier's check with trembling fingers. 1 hour? Marcus finally managed, his voice cracking. You can't be serious. Actually, I pulled out a formal-looking document from my portfolio. I'm being quite generous. The bank's fraud department suggested immediate action. Mom struggled to sit up straighter in her recliner. I want to know everything. No more lies. I nodded, then turned to face my siblings. Who wants to go first? Marcus? Amanda? Or should I start with the credit card statements? Amanda burst into tears. Real ones this time. He said if I didn't help, he'd tell everyone about the money I took from Dad's estate. Shut up, Marcus shouted, jumping to his feet. No, you shut up. Amanda's composure shattered completely. You promised this would fix everything. Now look what's happened. I held up my hand. Dad's estate? The one that was supposedly depleted by medical bills. Katie let out a strange laugh. Oh my God, there's more. There's always more, I said quietly, pulling up another file on my laptop. Like the second mortgage taken out on Mom's house 3 months ago. Does anyone want to explain that? The room went completely still. Mom's face had turned ashen. What second mortgage? Marcus made a move toward the door, but I stepped in his way. Running won't help. The documents are already with my lawyer. Your lawyer? Uncle Pete sputtered. Sullivan and Hayes, I replied. They specialize in financial fraud and elder abuse cases. They're very thorough. Aunt Sarah started gathering her purse and coat. We should go, Pete. This is family business. Sit down, I commanded, my voice sharp enough to make her freeze. Your $43,000 loan makes you part of this family business. I walked over to Mom's side again, taking her trembling hand. I'm so sorry, but you need to hear all of it. The cancer treatments weren't the only thing they've been hiding. Over the next 20 minutes, I methodically laid out everything I'd discovered during my day of investigation. The forged power of attorney hadn't just been used for my $75,000. They'd systematically drained Mom's accounts, taken loans in her name, and even tried to refinance her fully paid house. The house? Mom whispered, tears streaming down her face. My home. Marcus finally broke. The investment was guaranteed. The crypto returns were supposed to be 300%. I was going to pay everything back double. Like you paid back the $140,000 from Dad's life insurance. I asked quietly. The money that mysteriously vanished last year. Amanda gasped. You said that went to Mom's medical trust. There is no medical trust, I said, pulling up more documents. Just a series of transfers to accounts I've spent all day tracing. Vacations, gambling debts, a boat that was sold 2 months after purchase. Katie stood up suddenly. I want immunity. Everyone turned to stare at her. If I show you everything, tell you where all the money went, I want immunity from prosecution. Her voice was steady now, all pretense gone. Marcus forged my signature too. I have proof. Marcus lunged at her. You backstabbing. I stepped between them, my voice cold. Touch her, and I call the police right now. Your choice. He backed down, sweat visible through his expensive shirt. 40 minutes left, I announced, checking my watch again. Here are your options. First, you signed everything I have prepared admitting to the fraud. You agreed to full repayment terms, including 8% interest. You surrender all assets purchased with stolen funds, and you agree to detailed financial monitoring. Or, Uncle Pete asked weakly, or I make one phone call and the bank's fraud department takes over. They've already flagged the transactions. All they need is my go-ahead to involve the FBI. The FBI. Amanda's voice rose to a squeak. Wire fraud across state lines, I explained calmly. Plus insurance fraud, identity theft, and elder financial abuse. The minimum sentence is quite interesting. Mom's grip on my hand tightened. How much? She whispered. How much did they take in total? I hesitated, then decided she deserved the full truth, including my $75,000, Dad's insurance, the second mortgage, and all the credit cards. I paused. Just over $380,000. The number hung in the air like poison gas. Mom closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. But don't worry, I added, my voice hardening. They're going to pay back every single penny, aren't you? Marcus slumped against the wall, his expensive suit wrinkled and damp with sweat. Amanda had curled into herself, making small whimpering sounds. Uncle Pete and Aunt Sarah sat frozen, their faces ashen. I pulled out a stack of documents from my briefcase. Now, who would like to sign first? Katie stepped forward immediately. I have screenshots of everything. Text messages, emails, bank transfers. I've been keeping records since March. Marcus stared at his wife in shock. You were documenting. Of course I was, she snapped. I learned from the best, didn't I? Now shut up and let me save myself. I laid the papers on the coffee table, my Mont Blanc pen gleaming in the lamplight. 30 minutes left. Time to decide. The repayment agreement ended up being 23 pages long. I watched as each of them signed, their signatures shaky but legible. Katie went first, providing a USB drive containing what she called insurance against Marcus. Amanda followed, mascara streaked down her face. Uncle Pete and Aunt Sarah signed the separate agreement for their $43,000 loan, avoiding everyone's eyes. Marcus was last. His hand trembled so badly he could barely hold the pen. Initial each page, I instructed coldly. And don't forget the asset surrender form. The terms were brutally simple. Every asset purchased with stolen funds would be liquidated immediately. Their bank accounts would be monitored by an independent trustee. Monthly payments would be automatically deducted from any income. Any deviation would trigger immediate legal action. The truck keys, I said, holding out my hand to Marcus. I need it for work. Keys. Now. He dropped them in my palm, the designer key fob catching the light. I turned to Katie. The ring, too. She slipped off the 3-carat diamond, probably relieved to be rid of it. I placed both items in an evidence bag, adding it to my documentation. I've scheduled an appointment with the district attorney for Monday, I announced, gathering the signed papers. Your cooperation tonight has been noted. Whether charges are filed will depend on complete compliance with these agreements. You'd send your own brother to jail? Marcus whispered. I looked at him, really looked at him, seeing not my little brother but the stranger he'd become. You stole from our dying mother? I replied. What do you think? Mom hadn't spoken during the signing. She sat in her recliner, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I knelt beside her again. The house is safe, I assured her softly. I've already started proceedings to void the fraudulent mortgage. Your medical care is fully covered. I've transferred another $100,000 to a secure account that only you and I can access. She gripped my hand. I should have known. When they kept making excuses about the hospital bills. It's not your fault, I said firmly, but things will be different now. I stood up, addressing the room. The monitoring starts tomorrow. Katie, you'll meet with my lawyer at 9 a.m. to provide your evidence. Amanda, your business accounts will be audited next week. Uncle Pete, Aunt Sarah, expect calls from the trustee about your repayment schedule. And me, Marcus asked quietly. You have until Monday to provide a complete accounting of every dollar you stole. Any discrepancy between your story and Katie's evidence will go straight to the DA. He nodded, defeated. Now get out, I said. All of you. They filed out silently, leaving their house keys on the table by Mom's order. I watched through the window as they got into their respective vehicles, except Marcus, whose truck would be sold the next day. Once they were gone, I called the private nursing service I'd arranged. Within an hour, a competent-looking woman named Susan arrived, carrying overnight bags. I've hired 24-hour care, I explained to Mom. Susan will stay tonight, and her colleague Maria comes tomorrow. They'll help with medications, appointments, and anything else you need. You're not staying? Mom asked, looking worried. I'll be back tomorrow, I promised. But first, I have some more work to do. That work took another week. I took a leave of absence from Goldman Sachs, using my considerable resources and connections to untangle the web of fraud. The district attorney was very interested in the evidence, especially after I mentioned potential connections to other investment scams. Katie's documentation proved invaluable. She'd been planning her exit for months, recording conversations, photographing documents, tracking every dollar. In exchange for immunity, she filed for divorce and provided testimony that would ensure Marcus never came near financial management again. The fallout was extensive. Amanda's business shut down after the audit revealed years of tax evasion. Uncle Pete and Aunt Sarah had to sell their vacation home to repay their portion. Marcus faced potential criminal charges, pending his cooperation with the investigation. But more importantly, Mom's care was finally properly managed. The new treatment protocol showed promising results. The nursing service kept her comfortable, and her doctors reported improvement in her condition. I bought the house next door to Mom's, converting it into a home office. Goldman Sachs agreed to let me work remotely 3 days a week. The other days, I worked from Mom's kitchen table, monitoring both her care and the repayment progress. One evening, about a month after the confrontation, Mom and I sat on her porch, watching the sunset. "I should have seen it," she said quietly. "The signs were all there." "They took advantage of your trust," I replied, "but they'll never do it again." She smiled slightly. My practical daughter, always fixing things. "Some things need to be broken before they can be fixed properly," I said, thinking of the family we'd lost and the stronger boundaries we'd gained. My phone buzzed. An email from the trustee confirming the first round of repayments had been processed. The truck had sold for $68,000. Katie's ring brought another $42,000. Small steps toward justice. "What happens now?" Mom asked. I took her hand, feeling the strength returning to her grip. "Now we rebuild. The right way this time." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of redemption. Sometimes the biggest betrayals lead to the clearest vision. We'd lost a family built on lies, but we'd gained something more valuable: truth, boundaries, and a foundation strong enough to support whatever came next. I looked at Mom and smiled. "We're going to be okay." And for the first time in months, I absolutely meant it.